So we're going to talk today about online commerce and the trends we're essentially seeing at Stripe today regarding online commerce. And I think that the central theme of this talk is that we're just at the beginning. This is the pre-season for commerce on the internet. We've been fooled by the Amazons, the eBays, the PayPals, and thinking that commerce is mature on the internet. But this is just really the beginning. This is just really a start. So just to give you an example of that, we all know like the codes given on the Internet Protocol in the 90s. We all know the 404 code, not found. We all know the 403 code, forbidden, right? Forbidden page. Now, does anybody know what 402 stands for? So 402 was defined in the 90s in the same way as these codes to talk about a payment required. So basically in the 90s, when these were defined, payments were supposed to be, at some point, integral to the Internet Protocol. It was supposed to be integral to the Internet Protocol. And it's interesting because this code was reserved for future use. 25 years later, it's still not the case. The interesting part here is that I think we're trying to solve, there's still a Google-sized problem to be solved on the internet, and this is the one. Today on the internet, connectivity is really easy. You can send packets of information across the planet or to the guy sitting next to you in a second, right? You can WhatsApp someone anywhere in the world instantly. So moving packets of information is super easy. Now, moving packets of money is a totally different story. And I think 25 years ago, we were thinking that it would be so easy in the years to come. Well, that's not solved yet. Why is it not solved yet? Well, when you start looking about payments and transacting money over the internet as a merchant, you're starting to encounter a certain number of hurdles here. So you have to deal with security, PCI compliances. You have to deal with processors, with different card networks, with ISO norms, with all sorts of things. And I'm not even talking about various payment methods that exist across the world. And this is the problem that Stripe has started tackling, is trying to tackle. Stripe was started in 2011, and what we're trying to do is essentially to make it easier for any business to start a business online. Now, where does this bring us today? Today, 2% of commerce is done online. That's where we are 20 years after the beginning of the internet. Now, I don't know about you, but I think that's actually quite a failure. And again, I think that's a problem that still has to be solved. So I'm going to talk today about essentially 3 trends that we're seeing, and I think are going to reshape how commerce is on the internet in the years to come. So number 1, this might seem obvious, but we're going to get more and more internet users onboarding in the years to come. And this is a slide that's just showing how many internet users we have worldwide. So it looks pretty linear. Today, we're kind of in the middle of where we should be. But this chart is actually telling a lie, a big lie. Because this chart actually counts in the same way whether you're spending 10 minutes in an internet cafe on internet every week, or whether you're actually spending 4 hours on your mobile phone every day. So I think what's more interesting to look at is actually smartphone usage. So why is that? Because as long as you use internet on your smartphone, it means that you're actually using it pretty much all the time. I mean, you have your smartphone with you all the time. So that's actually the best approximate for internet usage and how much people use internet. And I think this is pretty telling. Like today, today is still the prehistory of the internet, actually. And 2000, look at 2000. 2000, when all these companies I just mentioned were built, right? 2000 was really like l'âge de pierre, right? So this is really telling. We're only at the start, still today. Now, if you talk about payments, I think in our Western world, we tend to think that credit card is the payment method. Now, this chart shows you the penetration of credit card payment online. So essentially, dark blue means more than 50% of transactions are done online. Other colors are less than 50%. So in a very Western, US, Western Europe, actually only part of Western Europe world, and Australia, credit card is pretty dominant. But in the rest of the world, people don't use credit cards, even online. They actually have different payment methods. So if you're a business, if you're a commerce online business, you want to be able to propose to your customers to pay in their payment methods. And if you're able to do that, you instantly become a global business. Your addressable market is not only France, it's not only Europe, it's not only Europe and the US, it's the world. Now, just to give you a few examples of this, Kenya, take Kenya. Kenyans pay through a mobile payment solution with cash, et cetera. It's kind of a weird construct for Westerners called M-Pesa. And this is what people use. 43% of Kenya GDP goes through this. People don't have credit cards in Kenya. China. People can have credit cards in China, but they don't pay with credit cards online. They pay through the payment methods that are offered by the big Chinese e-commerce websites. So Alibaba has a payment method called Alipay. Tencent has a payment method called Tenpay. And if you want to do, and more than 350 million Chinese people, I mean, this is like 1.5 times population of Europe, 350 million Chinese people pay with Alipay. They don't pay with credit card. So if you want to do business in China and access a market that's, in terms of population, some X that of Europe or the US, you have to be able to propose Alipay, or Tenpay, by the way, and or. So now, just like to come back to this, this is essentially a question of interoperability. If you're doing commerce and you actually want to access larger than a national market, which is actually structurally helpful with the web, right, rather than the offline world, you have to think about this, and you want to be able to support those payment methods. Another trend I'd like to put forward here, which is going to change the commerce landscape online, is payment mechanisms. Apple Pay came out in October 2014, has been and will be a revolution. By the way, I'm talking about Apple Pay, but a few days ago, Google released Android Pay, essentially exactly the same thing, saving your payment information on your smartphone and being able, I'm talking about the online Apple Pay, online Android Pay, not the NFC part of it, being able to pay with one click because you already have your information on your smartphone. This is going to be a revolution. Why is that? Because essentially, today, some transactions we're just not doing online. You're not doing a 50-cent, $1, $2, €1, €2 transaction online, because you're not entering your credit card number for a €1 transaction. Actually, you are with iTunes, and it's been a crazy success. Apple has disrupted the whole music industry because they've made that possible. So they've basically taken this Apple Pay function and made it a product with Stripe, and essentially you'll be able to pay with Apple Pay in whatever mobile app you have Same thing with Android Pay, which has been released a few days ago, again with Stripe. So this is going to bring new businesses online. This is going to create new businesses. This is going to enable businesses of 50 cents, €1 transactions to be possible online. These were not until now. So you can expect a whole wide range of new businesses coming out of this. Just to give a few examples, these are the apps that were put forward by Apple a few months ago, essentially in the US, because that's where it's currently available, these Apple Pay. These are the apps that were using Apple Pay at that point. And some of these are actually like new businesses, right? Some of these you recognize, some of these you don't. But some of these are possible thanks to something like Apple Pay. Another payment mechanism trend is related to social media. So essentially what's happening right now is social media platforms have realized two things. One, they need to find growth avenues in terms of revenues. They need to make money. Some of them are currently making money, others aren't. And two, people are spending more than half of their time on the internet actually on these platforms. People are spending crazy amounts of time on these platforms. Why not use that time to actually get them to shop? Why would you need to go to galerielafayette.fr, warbyparker.com, whatever, call it, to make a purchase if in your everyday life you're actually seeing products in your everyday platforms that you like? That's the whole story around buy on Twitter, for instance. So essentially, this is a product that's going to be a one-click in-tweet payment, where essentially you'll see a tweet, you can tap it once, credit card information is already stored with Twitter. It'll give you a second screen with the details of the product, and then a third screen will be just the validation. So it's essentially a two-click kind of purchase on a platform that you already spend your time on. Obviously, there's some technology behind here because you want to be able to link this button to various merchants who want to sell you maybe the same product, right? Your Lacoste shirt can be sold by Galerie Lafayette, Lacoste, but also other merchants, right? And Stripe is powering all this. Stripe is powering all this for Twitter. We're also powering this for Facebook right now. Pinterest announced 2 days ago that this is how they were going to make money in the years to come. And that's with Stripe again. But all these apps that you're seeing are actually, well, all these platforms you're seeing on this page are evolving towards commerce. So essentially what I'm saying is, in a few years from now, this is where you'll be actually buying stuff online, or at least physical stuff. And for many people, these apps are the internet and will become more and more. Now, a third trend I'd like to talk about is offline moving online. I think we're seeing that more and more. Coming back to this list of apps that I just showed a couple of minutes ago, talking about something else, I think many of these, Uber, OpenTables, etc., Instacart, are bringing something you used to do offline, something you used to pay for offline, online. And that's a trend we're seeing. These are often not competing against online companies. They're actually competing against the offline world. And some of them are super successful at doing so. So like to take just a quick example to make it illustrative. I think we all know Uber. We had a great talk yesterday on this stage. Another example could be open tables. Open tables, for the French in the room, is the La Fourchette in the US. And so essentially what these guys have been doing is, until now, they've been bringing online the very first part in the flow, which is choosing a restaurant and getting a discount. Okay? That's been their traditional model. But we've helped them actually move the rest of the experience apart from the actual eating in the restaurant, but all the rest online as well. So typically, open tables, what you do now is you book a restaurant on open tables, on La Fourchette. Then what you do is you actually go to the restaurant. You have a great meal. And instead of waiting for the waiter, is he going to come along? Oh, then he comes along. Oh, I have to ask for the card machine. He gets to the card machine. He brings 1 or 2 plates to other people in the meantime, and there you are paying, and essentially that took you 10 to 15 minutes. And when you're in a hurry, that's always kind of annoying. So essentially what's happening here is at the end of the meal, you're actually on your smartphone, on your Open Tables app, and there you are just in one click paying your dinner, because all this is interconnected. That's the offline experience, which had some friction, that you're actually bringing online, that part of that experience. And this is what many of these apps are doing more and more. And you're pushing the boundaries to what you're bringing online to make it frictionless. Another really cool thing about this is that, I mean, you're also reinventing some concepts. Like, I mean, Uber is reinventing the concept of car ownership, right? And these are things that enable you to do that. I think I actually talked about this already. I mean, I haven't mentioned all of these, but essentially all of these are companies that are moving offline experiences online, and just examples, and just a few examples. And there's going to be so much more in the years to come. Now, these 3 trends I've been talking about for the past 15 minutes are essentially that internet access is growing globally. Payment mechanisms are being changed dramatically, and offline transactions are moving online. Now, what does this tell us for us, for you? I think several things. I think as consumers, I think the world is going to get better. I think it's going to be easier to pay for things. I think it's going to create better businesses that are going to make our lives easier. And that's great. I think as entrepreneurs, these trends are opening up so much avenues, and so many new business and business models and business types will rise in the years to come. And that's a strong expectation we actually have. And essentially that's because of these things, right? Entirely new categories of companies. Easier to start a business than ever before, and a global business. That's what I was mentioning. You will soon be able to start, a Pakistani in his garage will soon be able to start a business that's instantly going to be global, and he'll be able to sell his service or his product to someone sitting in Nantes at Stereolux watching a conference. That's the world we want to be in a few years from now. That's the world we will be in a few years from now. More choices for consumers globally, and as I was saying, more cross-border commerce. Thank you very much, and I'm open to questions. Any questions? I think there's a mic somewhere for people who might have questions. No?
Hi, here, at the top.
Okay.
I have 2 questions. In the future, what do you think Do you think that the credit card will just disappear, and all the user will pay only by online? It's my only question.
No, I think there will always be room for like the offline world. I think the credit card, in the Western world where it's actually used, I think the credit card will never disappear. I think there is a movement that I mentioned about offline commerce going more and more online. But I think these things will not disappear in the medium term. I think things are always going to be, some things are always going to be offline, and generations also, some generations that are around here like will never let go of their physical credit card. And I think the other thing is customer behavior. Like customer behavior is the strongest thing the hardest thing to change, right? So we know like the French are very attached to their credit cards, to their physical credit cards. And I'm saying that, when looking also at various other countries, and I think that's not going to disappear, in the near term or in the medium term. And some things will always be offline.
And do you think? Thank you. And do you think that it will be a good niche for the bank, for the bank online to grow in the future?
So, what would be good niche? Sorry, which part of it?
We see, for example, in France, there are some bank, they are growing by online. So, what do you think about this market?
So I think that's a great market. I think it's actually solving a need, it's solving a pain that people have today with their old school legacy banks. It's solving various pains. It's solving the pain of open hours, like when is the bank open? Well, guess what? It's open between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. only on from Monday to Friday. And so if you actually have a job, which is less and less the case in some countries, but it's tough to get to your bank at open hours. It's solving the cost pain. Like consumers see traditional banks as very expensive, and online banks tend to be much more competitive. It's solving various pains, so it's a great thing for consumers, and that's why it's so successful. Now, but it's a consumer product, right? It's like online banks are B2C. They're solving the consumer problem. Now, are they solving the global commerce problem on the web? No, they're in a different business. The global commerce problem is more a question of I'd say global payment players able to help online merchants sell globally, right? So those are two pretty different things. Now, some consumer banks are trying to get into the space of proposing better payment solutions for merchants. That's another story. And are those the ones that are going to win that game? I don't know yet. Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Hi.
The question you mentioned before, Kenya with alternative payment methods, and many places in the world where it's not possible or people don't use credit cards. Now, with Stripe at the moment or other companies, how do we as companies solve that issue and become global right away?
Yeah. So some things I didn't go into too much detail here, but when you want to go global as an online business, you're looking at payments. That's a problem to solve, and then you have other issues, language, logistics, right? I'll only talk about payments. Now, payments is, and you have two issues in payments. One is payment methods. So I kind of touched upon that, and you want to choose a payment solution that enables you to go global right away. So you want to be able to choose a payment solution that proposes the various payment methods that you think your product is going to be a good market in, like in terms of markets. So Stripe today proposes all credit cards, including American Express, Discovery, and other types of cards, but also Alipay, which is one I mentioned here for China, Bitcoin as well, SEPA, transfers very soon, ACH in the US, ACH is the SEPA in the US, and we're actually adding like other payment methods pretty frequently right now, and it's going to take some time. This is a journey that we've started, and it's going to take a little bit of time, but we'll essentially have all payment methods in the world in, name it, right? In a couple of years? I don't know, but in some time. That's that. The second part of it is, even with credit cards, and we've seen that, like, actually, if you look at the world GDP, pretty good chunk of it is actually covered by credit cards today, right? And what you want to be able to do is to be able to sell in local currencies, even if you have only credit cards, right? Take Japan. Japan is mostly credit cards. I can show you the map again. But in Japan, you're not going to sell in dollars. You're not going to sell in euros. You're not going to sell in British pounds. People won't buy. By the way, I have an example of that. So there was this British company called Always Riding, who basically builds pretty high-end bike accessories. So you want to buy the pants for biking, or you want to buy the helmet, or like nice bags, and like pretty high-end. They started the company, and then they realized that for some reason there was a market in Japan for bicycle accessories. And it was kind of working. Like, they were actually selling in GBP or in USD in Japan a little bit, but not as much as they were expecting. And so they actually switched to Stripe, where and Stripe enables you to get paid in 140 currencies in the world. So essentially, anywhere in the world, someone has a credit card, can pay in his local currency if you're using Stripe as a merchant. And so suddenly, they were able to propose to their Japanese consumers to pay in yen. And that increased their conversion ratios by, was it 60 or 70? Between 50 and 70%. I don't want to say a mistake, but it's in that range. So essentially, people want to buy in their local currency. Like, especially like some countries, like Japan, like they're not really USD friendly. And so that's something you want to be able to do, and that has a huge impact on your business. So my answer is essentially, to your question, is local currency is important, and alternative payment methods as you go into more emerging markets is important. Any other question?
We're seeing more and more online payment companies like Alipay going offline. They are actually partnering with other companies to propose payment method on wristbands. Do you think this could actually be a trend, and this could actually disrupt the credit card market? Or do you think it's just like something like a try?
Yeah, so inevitably, we are seeing a channel kind of merging on the retail side. So retail is offline retail going online, and online retail going offline, right? Typically, we all know the first example of offline players wanting to go online. Online players going offline, there are some examples. I don't know if you guys know Birchbox. Birchbox is that box where you receive beauty samples, and they're actually starting. But so it's a monthly subscription service. It's Jolie Books, and they're starting to also open up stores now. So they're going offline. So that's clearly a trend, and we're playing a role in that as well. But I won't go into too much detail. Of course, online payment players are also going that way because they're pushed by their own merchants, their own customers to go that way. So yes, there's a trend. Is it going to be a one winner takes all? Is it Alipay? I can't tell. I mean, Alipay is just a payment method, right? So I think the winners here are going to be the payment platforms that kind of propose different payment methods, right? And so is Alipay going to become a platform with various payment methods, or is it going to remain an Alipay-only payment method? I don't know, but I think the winners are going to be more of the platform kind of players. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. I'm sorry, I think we don't have time for any more questions, so Hagrid, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
For this beautiful intervention.